Hi, and welcome to the video on dividing fractions. In this video, you should learn how to divide fractions by other fractions, whole numbers, and mixed numbers. So let's take a look at dividing fractions. Like I said before, in this video, we're going to learn how to divide by other fractions, whole numbers, and mixed numbers. When we're dividing by fractions, we need to remember that we need to multiply by its reciprocal, and we learned that in the last video. So let's say I want to do a half divided by a quarter. This is the same as a half times 4 over 1 because 4 over 1 is the reciprocal of 1/4. Now when we multiply fractions, from our previous video we should know that we need to multiply the numerators and then multiply the denominators. So a half divided by a quarter is the same as 4 over 2, which is the same as 4 divided by 2, which gives us 2. So asking how many times does a quarter go into a half? Well, there are 2/4 in a half, and we know that because at the halftime of a basketball game, 2/4 have already gone by. Let's take a look at another example. 2/3 divided by 2/5. How many 2/5 are going to go into 2/3? Well, what we need to do is change that division symbol into a multiplication symbol, and that 2/5 into 5 over 2. So 2/3 divided by 2/5 is the same as 2/3 times 5 over 2. Multiplying the numerators and the denominators together, we get 10 over 6. Which we can simplify to 5 over 3 just by halving the top and the bottom. Finally, we should write our answer as a mixed number, and 3 goes into 5 once, with 2 out of 3 left over. So that's dividing fractions by other fractions. Let's take a look at dividing fractions by whole numbers. This first example says to do a half divided by 6. Now we should know that a 6 is the same as 6 over 1, so if we want to multiply by its reciprocal, we need to change that 6 into a 1 over 6. So a half divided by 6 is the same as a half divided by, times 1 over 6. Now we multiply the numerators to get 1 on top and multiply the denominators to get 12 on the bottom. So a half divided by 6 is 1/12. Let's take a look at example number 2. 9 over 4 divided by 3. This is the same as 9 over 4 times 1 over 3. That's by finding the reciprocal of 3. Multiplying across the top and across the bottom, we get 9 over 12. Simplifying by dividing top and bottom by 3, we get 3/4. Now up until this point, we've divided by a fraction and we've divided by a whole number. It's going to get a little trickier now. Let's see if we can follow along. Here we're dividing mixed numbers by other fractions. The first example is 1/2 divided by 1/4. So the first thing I need to do before I can divide any mixed number is to change it into an improper fraction. So my first step is going to be taking that 1/2 and changing it into 3 over 2. So 1/2 divided by 1/4 is the same as 3 over 2 divided by 1/4. Now I can go through the steps that I did in my last example. I can times by 4 over 1, that is just flipping the second fraction, leaving the first fraction the same, and getting 12 over 2 because 3 times 4 is 12 and 2 times 1 is 2. Finally, 12 over 2 is the same as 12 divided by 2, giving us an answer of 6. So asking ourselves what's 1/2 divided by 1/4, that's the same as saying how many quarters are in 1/2, and there are 6 of them. Our final example, tricky one, 2 1/4 divided by 1/2. My first step is to change them into an improper fraction. So 2 1/4 is the same as 9 over 4, and 1/2 is the same as 3 over 2. These two things are exactly the same, but I can divide 9 over 4 by 3 over 2 by changing the divided by symbol into a times symbol and flipping the 3 over 2. So 9 over 4 divided by 3 over 2 is the same as 9 over 4 times 2 over 3. Multiplying across the top and across the bottom, I get 18 over 12, and 12 goes into 18 once, with 6 out of 12 left over, which is the same as 1/2. I did say it was a tricky example. So what should you write down? Well, I have one example of each of the 3 examples that I went through. I think you should write those examples down so that you have them in your book so you know the steps to go through to help you answer them. And that's it. Hopefully now you know how to divide fractions. Remember, we leave that first fraction exactly the same. We change the divided by symbol into a times symbol, and we flip that second fraction into its reciprocal. And then we multiply. Good luck.